First tonight, as the region prepares itself for more snow, how communities are coping in the big freeze.
Temperatures have struggled to get above freezing for several days, and for the rest of the week it's not likely to get any better. This was the scene in Kettering earlier this afternoon, just a slight smattering of snow. But tonight, across the region, between 2 and 5 centimetres could fall, and tomorrow, between 5 and 10 centimetres are expected. With temperatures expected to plummet to -6 tomorrow night, the region's gritting teams are working flat out to make sure roads are passable. But councils are stressing they do have enough supplies.
We have about 700 tonnes or so. We're hoping that'll last us until we get our next delivery, which we're expecting any moment, but that's 1,800 tonnes, and we're just obviously hoping the rest of the country's got their roads clear to get it to us.
Meanwhile, the weather's been taking its toll in other ways, from fuel supplies to communities trying to keep warm. Kevin Birch has been looking at how the region's coping.
When you see what's happened to this once dripping tap, you realise the intensity of the big chill, which is why at this Age Concerned Day Centre in Ipswich, they try to give older people all the help and advice they need to stay warm and stay safe. But with things closing in, today's numbers are low.
There's some people who are unwell, but it's mainly because of the weather. We've also had people cancel already for tomorrow and Thursday. They obviously listen to the forecast. They're really concerned about the weather and they just don't feel comfortable in actually coming out in the bad weather.
Many here struggle to get about at the best of times. Gwendolyn is 89 and broke bones in her wrist in a recent fall.
Somebody came from a bus stop and they saw me fall and they picked me up and rung for the ambulance.
And she's not the only one worried about the cold snap and its impact on older people.
I mean, I know one lady, she won't put her heating on, she won't, but there's no need for it, really.
When you get old, you get unsteady on your feet.
Not so much fun.
You don't like it.
This is what happened the last time the snow swept in. Key routes across the region ground to a halt. Some people were left shoveling and shivering as they lost power and heating. And once again this time around it could prove a challenging few days for head teachers at thousands of schools. Wilma Hyde runs Potkiln Primary at Great Cornard near Sudbury.
I have to take into consideration the safety of staff being able to get into school, because if we don't have enough staff to manage the school, then we can't care for the children adequately. So I wouldn't want lots of children turning up without enough staff to manage the school.
The plummeting temperatures have given this business beside the A14 a boost. They've seen a 30% surge in demand for logs for burning. This yard would normally be stacked with 200 tonnes of timber, but this is all they have left and they're desperate for a fresh delivery.
It's very touch and go. We've just about got enough for the orders that we're committed to, that we've promised, and hopefully we'll be rolling again next week.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
For everyone, it does seem a case of watching and waiting. Kevin Birch, BBC Look East.
So it's looking like there could be severe weather conditions across the region tomorrow, with the prospect of disruption to travel and schools. Julie will be here with a full forecast later. And as always, the BBC's network of local radio stations will be providing up-to-the-minute coverage of the situation where you live. If you're not sure if your journey will be affected or your school will be open, then tune in to your local BBC station. That's in Northamptonshire, Cambridgeshire, 3 counties, Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk. And don't forget to send us your pictures of the cold snap. You can email them to look.east@bbc.co.uk.
The court's been told today that 7 men accused of insulting British soldiers in Luton had permission from the police to be there. The incident happened during a homecoming parade of the Royal Anglians. Well, today jurors were shown CCTV of the protest. Mike Cartwright was in court and joins us now. Mike.
That's right. For a second day, a rather unconventional start to proceedings. The district judge was already sat in court with the 7 men on trial filed in. Now, this followed yesterday when they refused to stand when the judge walked in. Now, it's normal practice for people to do that, but they say they couldn't do that because that would have been a sin to God. So clearly some sort of compromise is being worked out there. But today the court sat through more than an hour's worth of CCTV. This is very important to this trial. And what they're trying to establish is what the men are exactly shouting. Now, we don't have the CCTV to show you, but we do have this. This is the men arriving at court yesterday. In the white is Shadar Chowdhury. He's aged 31. Now, the court was told he can be seen shouting on the CCTV things like British soldiers are murderers, lady killers, shame on you. Other men were told were shouting things like rapists, baby killers, and British Army go to hell. Now, this was in front of the troops as they marched on by. But let's just remind you about the background of this case. These pictures were taken on the day of the demonstration. It happened during a Royal Anglian homecoming parade last year. The troops, they'd been to Iraq and Afghanistan. They'd lost 12 of their number in the fighting. Now, the original demonstration prompted a counter-demonstration, and the police had to put a cordon up to keep the two apart. Now, the defence team say how the police treated this second demonstration is very important. In court, a member of the defence team described them as a football crowd. He said you could hear swearing and chanting, and you could see fascist salutes. And he says at no time do you see the police trying to stop them. And, you see the police trying to stop them and telling them if they don't stop, they'll be arrested. But what you don't see, he says, is the police telling the original demonstration to stop their chanting or put their placards down. Instead, they're just moved on and they just carry on with a demonstration which the defence say the police had already previously known about and had agreed. So they say there was no reason for those men to be arrested.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Cartwright in our Luton newsroom.
The first British soldier to die in Afghanistan this year has been named. He was Private Robert Hayes of 1st Battalion, the Royal Anglian Regiment. He died on Sunday while on foot patrol in Helmand Province. Our chief reporter Kim Riley is with me. What more can you tell us, Kim?
Well, the Royal Anglians recruit, of course, from all around the region. Actually, Robert Hayes was born and brought up in Cambridge. His family from the village of Burwell, which is on the Suffolk-Cambridgeshire border. He was just 19 years old when he died. A rifleman with 6th Platoon. He'd been in the army for just over a year, joining the Vikings after completing his training course last March. He was a passionate sportsman, we know that. He played for Newmarket Rugby Club. He was also the battalion boxing champion. Many tributes paid him today, so many I could read out. Just this one from his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel James Woodham. Robert's death leaves a huge hole in the Vikings' ranks, he says. He'll be remembered as a young man whose energy for life was contagious, for his bravery and his sense of humour.
He was so young. How long had he been in Afghanistan?
Well, he was actually sent to Helmand Province last October, and he took part there. Let's just show you some pictures of the kind of actions he took part in. Intense, fierce fighting. And yet he was the victim, like so many other young soldiers, not of that, but of a roadside bomb and an IED. While on security patrol on Sunday, it exploded and he had no chance. His family say that Robbie's one ambition was to be a soldier, and he fulfilled his dream. They and his girlfriend Gemma, they were very, very close. They've asked for privacy to be respected, but they have issued a statement through the MOD. Let's read a little bit of it. Trying to express the true measure of our sorrow and our sense of loss is impossible. However, we are strengthened by the thought that he was with his comrades doing the job he dearly loved when his life was taken. They've appealed for their brave son's memory to be honoured, and I'm sure it will be.
And of course today more bodies brought home.
Yeah, all too familiar pictures we can show you now. Coffins carrying the bodies of 2 soldiers from the region arriving back at RAF Lynham in Wiltshire. 23-year-old David Watson of 3-3 Engineer Regiment at Wimbish in Essex, and 19-year-old Aidan Howell of the 3rd Battalion, the Rifles. He's from Desborough in Northamptonshire. Both killed in the last week of December. Hundreds lined the streets of a nearby town of Wootton Bassett to pay their respects to them. As we say, all too familiar a picture. And to put all this in perspective, on Sunday, Private Robert Hayes became the 213th member of our armed forces to die in action in Afghanistan since operations began in 2001.
Kim, thank you very much.
Well, still to come in the program.